Ukrainian news agency Union, I have a question for both High Representative. For Ukrainian President, what is your vision for Ukrainian way to become a NATO members? Do you have any time frame? And for Secretary General, how NATO can help Ukraine to become member NATO? Thank you.
If you're looking for the annual program for cooperation with NATO, so most significant part of this reform dedicated not only to the security sector, but to the economy, rule of law, anti-corruption, and different others. And I think that it is a key important factor for Ukraine to demonstrate the great achievement in this reform. And that's why I said that the war on the east of the country is not excuse for not providing the reform in the country. And that's why next week we will present it, the program of the reform, which was developed in the strong cooperation with the European Union and NATO. And I think that the new parliamentary election will help us a lot for accelerate the reform process. And when the country would be adequate to the criteria for the membership, the Ukrainian people will decide when and how it happened.
And let me pick up on that, because it is exactly for the Ukrainian people to decide, and the Ukrainian political leadership to decide how to develop its further future relationship with NATO. But whatever decision, it is of utmost importance to improve our ability to work and operate together. And this is exactly the reason why we are focusing on reforming and modernizing the Ukrainian armed forces, develop the security sector, raise standards to NATO level, and that will be a focal point within the NATO-Ukraine Commission and the annual national program and the trust funds we have decided to establish.
Kiev Post, please.
Mykola Sirup from Ukrainian Daily Day. My question to Secretary General. Secretary General, what do you think, excluding military options, I mean supply of lethal military equipment to Ukraine, how can be Ukrainian crisis? Indeed, it's not Ukrainian crisis, it's Russian aggression. You mentioned it. How can be this Russian forces carried back or put back for their border to Russia, and Crimea can be returned back to Ukraine? How can it be resolved without military option, without supplying military equipment for Ukraine, badly needed for Ukrainian forces? Thanks.
Honestly speaking, I don't think anyone would like war or armed conflict to solve this issue. We do believe that the best way forward would be to find a political solution. And to facilitate such a political solution, I firmly believe that the international community must respond determinedly if Russia were to intervene further in Ukraine, respond through deeper, broader, tougher economic sanctions that would definitely hurt Russian economy and isolate Russia further.
Channel 1+1.
Question for Ukrainian president in Ukrainian, if excuse me. Пане президенте, скажіть, чи були якісь домовленості із окремими країнами-членами альянсу про власне постачання Україні
about the supply for Ukraine of weapons? Are we talking non-lethal weapons, high precision weapons, or lethal assets? Are there any agreements?
мільйонів євро, які через НАТО, через різні програми мають надійти до України у рамках цього пакету, на що конкретно вони плануються бути витраченими? Дякую.
Перш за все, я хотів би подякувати всім країнам.
First of all, I would like to thank all the countries that participated in today's meeting for their very strong support and help including the financial support for the 4 trust funds, which primarily deal with important areas of Ukraine's security. This is about improvement of logistics, the improvement of command and control system, the improvement of communications, and cyber defense. There are individual countries who undertook coordination and decided to be the lead nations within those funds, and all the countries made their commitments to support the funds financially. Apart from that, basically, each country spoke about the results of our bilateral consultations in the way of assisting Ukraine. This primarily is related to military technical cooperation, both in the area of non-lethal and lethal weapons, including high-precision weapons. Individual countries undertook to help Ukraine rehabilitate the wounded servicemen. Some countries undertook to supply medical equipment and medication. And as you can see, the scope of our cooperation on the bilateral level with the individual allies is extremely broad. I would like to emphasize once again that in the final resolution, there will be words about encouraging bilateral cooperation, including in the military and technical field. Thank you.
Jim Neuger from Bloomberg. I'm right here. First, a question for President Poroshenko about the Minsk talks tomorrow. How do you see the prospects for an actual ceasefire, and why are you entering this process now? Don't you fear this would leave you with a frozen conflict? And if I could ask the Secretary General to assess Mr. Putin's peace initiative, is it genuine or a smokescreen?
Look, Ukraine is fighting for peace. Ukraine was not initiator of war. Ukraine are object of the aggression, and we try to do our best for immediate stop the aggression and to immediate stop the fire. Why? Because it is exactly Ukraine who pay the highest price every single day, losing the lives of their soldiers, innocent civilian. And me, as a president of Ukraine, are ready to do my best to stop the war. And why I have a, I can say, careful optimism for tomorrow meeting of the trilateral contact group in Minsk, because beforehand it was the statement of the Russian authorities and the Russian president, and it was in response the statement of the leaders of so-called Lugansk and Donetsk People Republic that they are ready for immediate ceasefire. And now it is very important to have a support of the OSCE for the monitoring and verifying mission, and to immediate release the hostages, which is legally kept by the terrorists, and put the situation under control on the Ukrainian-Russian border and withdraw all the Russian troops. I think this is a very tough challenge before the very important political negotiation. Take into account that the question of the Ukrainian sovereignty, Ukrainian territorial integrity, and Ukrainian independence is not a question for negotiation.
If recent statements from President Putin represent a genuine effort to find a political solution, I would welcome it, because that's exactly what we need, a constructive political process. However, what counts is what is actually happening on the ground, so it remains to be seen what it is. And I have to say that previously we have seen similar statements and initiatives, and they have actually just been a smokescreen for continued Russian destabilization of the situation in Ukraine. So based on experience, we have to be cautious in our assessment. But again, let me say that if we are witnessing genuine efforts to find a political solution, I would welcome it.